I think the fundamental problem of the Democratic Party is that they just don't get it in the sense that they're still obsessed with these culture wars. They're still obsessed with issues that are, if not 90-10 issues, maybe 70-30 issues. And to me, when you look back at 92, when Bill Clinton was able to win, he did it not just with his Sister Souljah moment, but he did it by taking on his own party in fundamental areas like crime, like free
Mhm.
trade, guns, things like that. And I haven't seen any of that thus far. It's easy to go after the voters you already have, but I really haven't seen any effort to win back or even an acknowledgement that there needs to be an effort other than from strategists, but from a lot of the hardcore Democrats. The message is, well, we didn't get our points out enough. No, you did. That was the problem. I
Yeah,
don't think
well, and I think the Democratic Party faces a real uh there's a reality here that they need to confront, which is in 2030, they're going to lose a
Yes.
number of House seats and a number of electoral college opportunities because of the census and where populations have migrated
It's a
post-COVID.
14-point net swing. It's huge.
To the point where they could win, and in theory, in 2032, they could win Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and still lose the presidential election. Like the swing states that we talk about today will not be the swing states of the 2030s decade. What that tells us is they are going to have to do exactly what you just said, Dave. They're going to have to make inroads with constituencies right now that are a no on voting blue. And until they acknowledge that just demographic reality, they could very much look at a situation where they are out of power for the next 10 to 14 years. That is a logistical, electoral, just basic math reality. And it reminds me very much of where the Democratic Party was when Reagan got elected. And you had 12 straight years of Republican presidencies. And in actuality, you had 20 years out of 28 years of Republican presidencies when you go from the 1980s through the end of George W. Bush's tenure, uh, with strong Republican majorities from 1994 on. That is exactly where the Democratic Party is looking at right now, what they're going to do to themselves if they do not get the memo that for all the things they want to talk about with the social culture wars, majority of the country's not with you on that. And if you keep talking about that and branding your party as that, you're going to repel everybody else away.
And what I always tell my liberal friends is, Trump, they're excited, Trump is so evil. He's this and that. I'm like, yes, but 49.9% of the country, even acknowledging that Trump was a threat to democracy, even acknowledging how corrupt he was, they still thought he was better than the alternative.
Hmm.
Okay. That if that's not a wake-up call, I don't know what is. And as you say, you had 20 out of 16 out of 20 years, with Nixon and then Reagan and Bush. And then you had, Bush number two. But you're right. And these are voters that the Democratic Party used to have as their bread and butter. So
Yeah.
this is, when you think about working class voters, should be the one group they have. But the problem is, if the system isn't working for people, you can't tell them how bad the opposition is. You have to give them a reason to vote for you. And that's the fundamental problem.
So here's what I think is very interesting. The reason whatever anyone says about Trump, the reason that he good or bad, his rhetoric, the shock and awe that he's doing in regards to when he took over and won this election. Here's the bottom line. There's a majority of this country that identifies with him because he's not like a typical politician. And that is what people like, that he's doing things that they can relate to. Even when he was obviously charged and convicted of all of the different accounts in federal court, I mean, just that people identified with. Here's who I think that if the Democrats were willing to take a chance, could win, because I think that they bring on Republicans and they bring excitement. Senator Fetterman. I
Mhm.
think that he would connect with the everyday American. He's not gonna talk about some of these social issues because he doesn't really believe in them. He would connect with people in North Dakota, in West Virginia, in rural Milwaukee. I mean, he would connect with those people. He believes in the fundamentally same thoughts that the Democrat Party believes in, but he also is, and I say it as a Republican, a little more practical on some of these major issues that divide the country in regards to DEI and social issues. So I actually think if the party would ever, I mean, the party's mad at him right now for kind of going on the Republican side with some of these votes, and but I actually think that he resonates with a lot of people in America that Trump has done. And he's completely different than most candidates. But again, people would be excited to vote for him, in my opinion, and I think a Republican would have a really hard time going against him if he was the candidate, because I think he would bring over purple Republicans.